Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassie, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society, whose mission is making connections through music with the intention of bringing peace, harmony, coherence, whatever it takes to make a better world. And we know that music can be a big factor in that. And I'm really excited to be able to have a conversation today with a person that I met recently. We had a great conversation on music, mushrooms, and mycelia. You should check that out. Very interesting. I'm always happy to talk with her. Reverend Rayne Grant, also known as Rayne Drip, I think that's your music name, Rayne?
That's my stage name, yes.
Stage name. Well, great. Thanks for taking the time for doing this. We're in different time zones. You're out in the beautiful mountain area, I guess, of Colorado.
Yeah, I'm here in Colorado in the Four Corners area, and it is absolutely stunning. Where are you at?
Well, I'm just in Washington, the suburbs of Washington, D.C., but I like to think I'm in the mountains. That's Nepal when we went there just before the pandemic. When my whole life changed and I got led to the Devi Music Ashram in Rishikesh, India, and it's been more rocket ship of learning and, serendipity and everything else. Anyway, so my friend Bob Heminger, who I met through Victor Wooten's camps, the Spirit of Music camp in particular, is a great guy, amazing voice, sax player. I had wanted to have this conversation about music, mushrooms, and mycelia for a while, and it wasn't quite coming together. And Bob said, "Oh, well, Rayne is great. She's a mycologist and into music and does all kinds of things, videographer and whatever." And so we had a great conversation with two of my other favorite people, Roy Futureman Wooten and Eileen McCusick, and that was great. I treasure those times when we can have rabbit hole-like conversations about things that may be esoteric, but I think are really important and that more people should hear about. So that's what we're doing. But Rayne, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about kind of where you are, what you do, introduce yourself a bit, and then I'll have a few little questions to trigger the conversation.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor, and truly enjoyed our conversations surrounding music, mushrooms, and mycelia. That was incredible conversation. So my name is Rayne Grant, and I do a lot of things, but I'm driven by my passions, and I have a lot of passions. And a lot of it has to do with our connection to our planet and our connection to ourselves within, without, and our connection to one another. And so my first passion has been music and movement, and utilizing, I've been a singer since I was very young, since I was like 10 years old, in choir, in church. And music has always been a driving force. I can sing to the plants, I can sing to the earth, I can sing to Creator, I can sing to the animals. And that's always been part of who I am, is music. And back in 2012, I had a huge realization through meditation. I was like, universe, show me what I need to be doing. I need to be doing something more with my life, with my life force, with my passions, with my skills and things like that. How can I best serve? How can I best be of service to the community on the planet and its inhabitants and the planet itself? And that's when I came across a TED Talk by Paul Stamets. A lot of people have been very, very inspired by that gentleman. Mm-hmm. And I'm a researcher, a writer, and inventor and all the things, but I started studying fungi, all things fungi. So I went down that rabbit hole and made that a profession. Like, I have dedicated my life to fungi and the fungal creatures, the many fungal creatures, and have spent almost a decade and a half, not only learning as much as I can, but teaching, getting on stages and workshop settings, seminars, things like that. I'm a writer, so I'm writing some books right now. But that has led me down so many rabbit holes. But I have stayed in tune and in touch with my musical passion. And I have become a festival producer. I've gotten into festival production mainly because I see how it brings community together. And my passion, or my niche, if you will, has been bringing education to these events, and creating spaces, creating platforms for people to share their wisdom and their skills with one another. And I see that it's super important, super important. So it's like, I'm like, okay, I've got all of these interests and whatnot. So I'm like, I'm led by spirit. I'm like, show me how these all connect. Being a videographer, being a writer, being an organizer, and being a performer, right? A performance artist. And anyway, these things have been weaving together through the years, through the decades. And I've done the things. I moved to Austin when I was like 21 years old to pursue my musical career. Interestingly enough, I when I was a small child and being in the church, and nothing against any form of religious, like whatever connects you to source, but people in the church, and adults specifically, would kind of staunch. Like if I got really passionate about singing, it was like, hey, tone it down, and that really kind of sat with me even through my 30s. Okay. Like it really did a number on my brain. It's like, ooh, don't sing too loud. Don't shine too much, because that could, pride goes before a fall and all that. But what I did is when I was 21, I moved to Austin, Texas, and pursued my musical career as a singer-songwriter. Got into promotions and whatnot, promoting not only my music, cutting an album and whatnot, but promoting other artists. I didn't become a major, promoter, but I was promoting smaller artists and getting them gigs in the area. And there was just something about, like, I don't know, I saw that there was a lot of ego involved in some of this stuff. I mean, they're incredible musicians and talent, but it's like the ego part of it, where people are in competition with one another, that just really rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm all about amplification of one another. How can we work together? How can we amplify each other? Well, anyway, I was losing myself, raising a family and whatnot, and didn't know. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, but the universe showed me that fungi are not only really incredibly important to our ecosystems and whatnot, but they are the foundational creators of these rocky planets, as far as I can tell. And that like lit me up, looking at like desertification and how that's a huge epidemic on our planet, and how we can reverse desertification working with the soil and the soil organisms, and replicating and enhancing what nature is already doing. And we can regreen the planet, as far as I can tell. And that lights me up so much that I have really dedicated myself to fungi, right? But when we create atmospheres or platforms or scenarios where community can come together, I mean, we can do it here on the internet, which is incredible resource that we have here. The technology is beautiful, but when we come together in person, it seems so much more potent. And so I've just kind of been moving these things together. And I've been learning electronic music, DJing ecstatic dance events. It's all about movement and moving the energy through our bodies and whatnot. And really getting in touch with those primal parts of ourselves. And I have found that music, like when I'm performing, that has been an incredibly impactful platform to spread awareness, to share awareness, and bring people together, like, and get us on the same wavelength, right? So I've been utilizing the music platform to also spread awareness surrounding fungi and the mycelium, and and bringing those frequencies and those vibrations and stimulating the mycelium, stimulating nature and stimulating our nervous systems. And when we have a bunch of people together in like what I like to call a unified field, when we're all focusing on the same thing at the same time, it's really potent, and that can amplify our intentions, and that can amplify nature and all the things. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing in all the facets. So
Wow,
anyway.
it's so amazing. It's really inspiring and profound what you're doing. I mean, obviously, when you were little, music tapped you on the shoulder to sing, and you're right that the churches and other religious places have been the sort of the birthplace of a lot of musicians. But also, as you said, I have heard in a lot of the conversations, and I not only talk with people about music and where music came from in their lives on the podcast, but whenever I talk with somebody, I'm likely to say, where did music come from in your life? But there is a tendency, for some reason, there has been with music teachers to put people down a little bit. I've heard many people say, so my music teacher told me that I really couldn't sing and I should just stop. Or, I was never going to make it there's this thing about making it as a musician and becoming a professional or, really mastering the instrument. And that's not at all what it's about, as Victor Wooten would say. So it's really admirable that you kind of took that path and wouldn't let yourself be kind of stymied a bit. But one of the things that led me to want to do that conversation that you touched upon, and there certainly I wouldn't be surprised if somebody listening would say, music, mushrooms, mycelia, what in the world do they have to do to with one another? How does mushrooms and music the same? And my quick thought on that, and then I want to just get your additional perspective, is I also was very influenced by Paul Stamets and watching him talk, basically saying mushrooms can save the world. And I think, anything that can do that, I'm for it. But he said one day that he saw some studies, I think, that mushrooms had responded to music, and I'm like, well, duh, of course. But it occurred to me, learning more about mycelia, which give rise to the mushrooms, that they kind of brought life to the planet, because I think we look like the moon, and then somehow mycelia and whatever else kind of made the soil and made it fertile for growing, and things started going. And at the same time, I believe in kind of the theory of Nada Brahma, the world is sound, the world is created by sound. So if sound creates life, possibly, and mycelia has helped create life on Earth, well, then there obviously are ways that they correlate and correspond. And I think the more people can know about that or appreciate it or even hear about it, even if they don't understand it or don't agree with it or whatever, the more that they can open their minds to the fact that, yeah, we're all connected at all the levels, and in a handful of dirt, you've got miles and miles of mycelia. It helps just open you up and get you away from some of these programmatic theories of belief and whatever that we are stuck with in a way, or we grow up with. So I think we're on the same page about that. What are your additional thoughts?
Nature loves patterns. So if we pay attention to what is happening right in front of us, right below our feet, it replicates throughout all of space, time, through the multiverse, right? Omniverse, whatever you want to call it. And we can learn a lot just by sitting still and paying attention, right? And it's my belief that we as humans, I mean, intelligence is so relative, right? Many people think that because we have these incredible brains, that means we are the smartest, the most powerful, and we're also the most, destructive, but we can also be the most creative, right? But what is intelligence? And I see that fungi are hyper intelligent. Nature is hyper intelligent. And I see that it's really wanting for us to not only pay attention, but to also take action and work alongside of. I say we need to work alongside of our fungal allies and our nature allies, our plant allies, and even our animal allies. What are they doing? Let's watch what they're doing and not only pay attention, but and support what is happening. But we as human beings have the ability to hasten some of these beautiful processes because, mankind has created so much damage. Okay. We're like in the sixth mass extinction right now. And this time around, it's man-made as far as I can tell. And it requires for us to take action and not be like, it's good to sit still and pay attention, but it's also like, where do we need to take action? And I think that's a very individualized answer. And like, ask yourself, what action do I need to take? And oftentimes, if you sit still with that question, the answer will come, right?
Yes.
And for me personally, fungi has said it is important to work with them, right? And they don't have voices in the same way that we do. So it's like we need a chorus of people amplifying their message because they do have a message. And we can not only support what they're doing, but we can hasten some of the processes of breaking down like contaminants and waste products and different things and creating soil and producing healthy soil, because soil is the essence of all life here on the planet. And how can we do that? And sometimes it has to do with farming or composting or breaking down plastics, or cleaning up oil spills. And sometimes it also has to do with creating music and amplifying the bass sounds. Honestly, I'm all about the bass, and I like feeling it in my body, like it feels good, like sound healing and whatnot. We can learn a lot from that, but we now know through science that the thunder or the is it Schumann's or Schauman's resonance, the heartbeat of the planet,
Schumann's resonance.
Low, yeah, the low tones are what stimulate the mycelium. And there are different types of mycelial creatures, but they work in conjunction with our plants. A lot of them do. Not all of them, but like the arbuscular fungi and things of that nature, the mycorrhizal systems work with our plants and keep them healthy, give them the nutrients that they need and whatnot. And so it's like, if we can stimulate nature through sound and stimulate our nervous systems through sound, how yummy is that, right?
Yeah.
And doing it with intention.
Yeah. So tying into that, but when I had heard Paul Stamets talk about that, in one of these many videos that he's done, he surmised that perhaps, indigenous people, Native Americans, whatever, would be around the campfire dancing and sort of communicating with the mycelia that way. Now, I'm not like 100% mentalist, telepathic all the time, getting text messages directly into my brain or anything. But I do believe for sure that we're connected. We're all part of the field, and we do have telepathy and understanding and communication with more things than we think about. And so, what's your perspective in the dance that you're doing, ecstatic dance? I mean, I think you go out to places and get on the stage and do your DJing or singing, but it's also about dance and movement, as you were saying, but also that connections that you're forming through the dance. I mean, could you explain that a little bit more for people who don't dance as much as they should, like me, or others? I mean, what's your kind of, it's like a rave, is it? I mean, I haven't, not sure I've been to raves, but it's kind of like that. It's just crazy dancing to connect yourself to source, as you would say.
Well, there's a lot of different, I'm going to try to sum it up, but there's a lot of different things I could say about that. Scientifically speaking, scientifically, we know that dancing is extremely stimulating to our brain in multiple capacities. So it's like, it's lighting up many portions of our brain at once, right? So we know that it's good for our health. It's good for our mental health. It helps produce like dopamine and serotonin. And if you're in an environment where you're connecting with other people and you might get a hug or something, you're creating like oxytocin release too. We need this. We need to be healthy thinking people and healthy people we need to be healthy in general. And that's mental health. That's our immune system. That's the probiotics and whatnot in our gut, on our skin, all the things, right? And so movement in itself, we get the blood flowing and it's good for our heart, right? So these are like common known things. But then there is like the energy. We are electromagnetic beings and we need our heart has a huge electromagnetic field. We think about this brain, but this brain is really important. So when we're, doing a cacao ceremony, a lot of these ecstatic dance events will have cacao, which is chocolate, precursor to chocolate. Really good for the heart. But, without taking stimulants and things like that, when we're moving energy, right? And this can be really, really good for our emotional bodies. If we have blockages, hang-ups, so to speak, some things don't have words attached. And some of these things we don't even know how to express in words. And so when we get into the mode of movement and whatnot, we're moving those emotional energies, and we can clear up emotional blockages. I know oftentimes when I'm dancing, so ecstatic dance is not like a rave. It's very family friendly and it's usually stimulant free. And so no alcohol, typically no alcohol. And so when you're in these healthy spaces, it allows you to move, and they say dance like nobody's watching. And some people, they get really hung up on that. They don't want people to see them dancing. And you can even put a blindfold on and dance. But it's really important to just let your body move in the ways that it needs to. And that's going to also loosen up the fascia in our muscular systems. And it's so good, such a good way to move our muscles and whatnot. And I like to mix it with flow, like flow arts. Like if you get like the silk fans or a staff, and you can get even fire movements. Which that's one of the reasons why I got involved with an organization, a nonprofit organization called the Church of Flames, which is an acronym for Fire, Love, Art, Music, Equality, and Sustainability.
Whoa.
And I am the temple leader or the president of the Temple of M, which is music, movement, mushrooms, and manifestation, right? And so I help create events surrounding that, or when the church goes to an event, I'll show up and represent that portion of the church. And that is, I've been doing that for about a year, but that's in its infancy still because we've got some really cool projects going. And so that allows me to support other aspects of what I'm doing. I have a lot of projects going on. Right now, I'm working with an incredible music producer out of the Denver Boulder area. Sonic Siege is what he goes by. And so we have been producing beautiful music, and he's really into frequencies and vibrations and electromagnetic topics. And I'm looking at how can we bring these beautiful aspects of healing and vibration to these larger speaker systems with people involved. And it's usually like these outdoor events. We're in nature. And and amplifying nature around us. That's where my brain's going with all of this. Now, to get back to your question, what was the question? Because I kind of rambled on a little bit.
Well, I think I kind of like to ask a whole bunch of questions at one time, and you can answer whatever you want. And so that was amazing. I don't know too much about ecstatic dance or rave, but when I was in India, there was a time of what they were talking about. I don't know if you heard about it, the Great Synchronization. Did you hear anything about that?
I did not. Tell me
It
about
was,
that.
and it's kind of a thing on social media, but they wanted everybody to sort of focus and meditate and think about on the spring equinox at 1 p.m. Eastern time, the words peace, love, unity, and respect. So I just kept hearing that, and I thought that's cool. And people were doing a lot of these kirtans, these sort of chants, religious chants, I guess, based on Sanskrit and Hinduism, and I don't even know all of what. But so we did a little music around there. But then come to find out that peace, love, unity, and respect, or PLUR, is one of the watchwords or slogans or mantras or agreements maybe that people in the rave community make so they don't go too crazy and, I don't know, whatever, knock everybody down and be not helpful to people raving with them or something. It sounds a little bit like ecstatic dance, but again, I don't really know. But it just struck me, I should have been doing this sooner in my life when my legs work better, because it makes a lot of sense to just move it all around. And I think if your intention is opening up to whatever the universe is bringing you, and it could be communications from the mycelia or whatever, then it's got to be positive. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, the rave and the ecstatic dance stuff. I mean, you're describing all this so well. The Church of Flames sounds fabulous. There ought to be churches like that in every town. That sounds great, Rayne.
And we want to expand globally. We do. So when you say rave, like I don't know that I've been to a rave proper. I know that raves are more party scenes, people taking drugs and kind of zoning out, getting away from their everyday life, right? In order to just like kind of let loose. And it came to my awareness back in 2018, a festival called Sonic Bloom. It's an EDM festival. It's kind of larger. Reached out to me and asked me to teach a workshop on mushrooms because I'm working on a documentary titled Can Mushrooms Save the Planet? Right. So I do a presentation on that topic. And so I was like, sure, I will go. And that was the first larger like EDM festival I'd gone to. And you could say that was very rave oriented. And I mean, so many people showed up. I mean, to me, 60, 70 people showing up. And who am I? I'm like, well, just hungry for the information. And I had this epiphany. I was like, people are coming to these events because they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They want to be a part of community. They want to get away from the day to day, and it's like, and I'm watching all these people walk around, some of them are on heavy drugs and whatnot. And I'm like, this is the type of environment where if we are able to offer some sustenance to it, that this is a space where we can give someone or give people something to bring home with them, not just go party and then they go home with a hangover, right? And so I started working with. So I had this epiphany, and I like to pray and ask for, show me signs and symbols. That's how I do it. I asked the universe, align me with the right people, because I see that going to these larger events or these events are a really incredible space to connect with people who are hungry for something. They're looking for something. And it's like, if they're just seeking and you don't give them, I mean, sometimes you just offer the thing and then people are like drawn to it, right? So then that's when I aligned with, I'm just talking like within a matter of a couple of weeks. I aligned with a couple of gentlemen who own a venue outside of Durango, Colorado, called the Talking Rocks venue. And they were clearing the property to be able to rent it out and to people putting on events. And I joined their board of directors, and we started putting on our own smaller events. transformational festivals is what we call them, transformational festivals. And they've really kind of taken off. I mean, there have been some really big ones, and a lot of really, I like the smaller ones where you only have like a few hundred people that show up. But it's focused more on the workshops and the education and the yoga and the sound healing, but you also have the music there that people can really groove and get in. And then you have some, either smaller artists, or you can get some really well-known artists that draw people in, right? And so that's where I got into festival production. I was like, how can we create environments that draw people in, and then while they're there, give them some meat, so to speak, to bring home with them. So that's more intentional. And that's where I've been a part of and have produced my own events, probably over 30 plus events at this point, bigger, smaller ones. And I work with several production companies, and I have my own production company. And it's beautiful, and creating different types of environments. But getting back to the rave situation, it's like, yeah, I get it. I think raves are in the 90s and the 2000s. I love going to concerts and letting loose and having fun. I do. But I think that creating these events that are more intentional are really where my focus is. And there is a difference. And you'll notice it. You'll notice it in the crowds. You'll notice it in the groups of people that come in. And I'm working with this one event. I'm the founder of one of the founders of Unison Festival, which has really taken off. And I think last year we had 4,500 people show up, and that's huge. And I noticed the last couple of years, more and more people on these substances like ketamine, for example. I am not an advocate for taking that substance in a party setting or no. So last year I made it one of my missions to speak out against ketamine. I'm like, less K-holes and more connection. How about the mushrooms, mushrooms, because that's more of a connector. It's like, if you're going to do something, if you have to have a substance to show up to these events and let loose, it's like, at least do something that is going to connect you to your environment and connect you to the planet and the people around you, rather than disassociatives. And so I think it's important to also we speak for things, we speak against things, and how do we balance that out without coming across as being like too rigid, right?
Yeah, it strikes me when we go out, you go out to dinner, or you go somewhere and get a sandwich, or there's sports on everywhere, and a lot of people go out and drink in bars, and sure, there may be music playing, but it's a lot of it is kind of distractions from what's really important. And I think what you're talking about is, making these festivals. And I was at one at the farm in Virginia, Sanctuary Summit, last year, and it wasn't all about raves or anything, but it was really about community and giving people more. Your idea of giving them information that they can take with them to help really expand their minds later and expand their lives later. But the one comment I wanted to make was, I heard from a friend of mine, and we had done a conversation in December, I think, on music and plant medicine. My friend Marshall Thomas says, well, Jefferson, the music is the medicine. And that is something that you would think, okay, if you're taking some plant medicine or whatever, MDMA, or, and it's a guided thing, you don't just sit there. There's music, and the medicine helps you get to the music, so that the music can then open up your mind, I guess, to the oneness, I suppose. And but I love the way that you're just taking advantage of so many things. You're like I kind of find that once you realize synchronicities, once you realize what a difference things can make, what things open you up, it just becomes more like a fire hose, and you're just pouring out that spigot there. So I really appreciate what you're doing. We need more people doing that, and it seems like you're trying to, get them to get people to kind of understand. And I love your message about the mushrooms. And so, any other thoughts? Because this has been a great conversation, and I just I'm really appreciative of what you're bringing to this conversation, but also out to the universe in general. What else? What else can we do? What other thoughts? I know you have more thoughts always.
Well, I would wrap it up, and just speaking to the individual, because each of us is our own sacred being, and every single one of us has talents and skills and passions. And I believe in the genius of each of us. And it's easy to get downtrodden by the planet, especially for sensitive beings, empathetic beings. And we care, but it can cause us when we have these, some people say it awakening, when we realize what's going on around us, it can cause us to shut down. And it's caused me to shut down at different points in time. So I just want to say to anyone who has gone through that and is feeling disappointed with what's going on, it's okay to feel disappointed. And it's okay to go through those motions, through those shadow, those are shadows. And the thing is like, that's not bad. That's how we can have realizations to be like, what do I need to do to be in my joy personally? How do I step into my joy? And sometimes, the most potent thing you can do is go down to the river or the ocean, go into the woods, get out in nature. Nature supports us so much. And it's just like breathing in the nature, right? And then finding your community, each and every single one of us, we can be a lone wolf all we want. And that's really important to be independent and to be sovereign in our aloneness, right? But we are meant to be around others. Okay. And so finding your communities, whether it's like joining a nature group, I say join a mycological association. I have the Four Corners Mycological Society, and I say anybody join, right? And we teach each other, and I show people how to identify poisonous mushrooms, fun mushrooms, pretty ones, edible culinary mushrooms. And it's really empowering, and not just mushrooms, but like herbs and whatnot. It's really empowering to get out in nature and be like, oh, that plant's edible. And that one's, it's just pretty, or mushrooms, right? But I'm about the mushrooms, so that's what I'm advocating for. But find your groups, whether that's an art group, a music group, ecstatic dance. There are ecstatic dance groups probably in every major city and smaller cities around the world. Okay. There's even an ecstaticdance.org website you can go to and find events. You can reach out to me. I'm a hub for things going on. But really, it's like, be a part of something, even if you are an introvert, even just being a fly on the wall at some of these things can help you to feel connected. I have kids that I have children, some that are extroverts and some that are super introverts. It's like, but just connecting with each other and writing, even if you're not a writer, write about things going on in your head. That helps you to create a lot of us come from trauma. I don't know, maybe every single person has trauma. We have generational trauma, and they've now found that writing every day for 20 minutes for like a month straight helps your brain to kind of reorganize. You don't have to share those writings with anybody, but it's like, if we are healthy within our own beings and a little more content, then we are able to make better decisions for ourselves, for each other, for the planet. And that's basically what I want to wrap it up with, is like, you're not alone, even if you feel alone in the moment. It's
Well, thanks. That's really just perfect. And, at the times that we're in, when everybody just feels like they're being crushed by cruelty, that message is really, really helpful. So if people do want to find you, where do they look?
You can do a Google search for Rayne Grant. I come up in a lot of different ways. I do so many different projects. So like, I have a music project. I'm also like a life coach and a writer. I have a production company. I have a mycological association. I have the Colorado Mushroom Company. I have the I'm working on the documentary, Can Mushrooms Save the Planet? I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I have a website, Rain Drip. I've got music going on, and I gig around and spread the gospel of the mushrooms that way as well. Like I like to say. But yeah, I'm findable. And what else? Oh, and I also have a nonprofit organization, the Psychedelic Club of Durango in the Four Corners, but we bring education, and I bring in guest speakers surrounding sacred plant medicine, fungal medicine, and even breath work, things like that. But I'm
Wow.
all over the place. So just Google search me.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I believe in the synchronicities and the coincidences, and what is it? That sixth hermetic principle, the cause and effect. There are no coincidence. So I'm so thankful for Bob Heminger. Just a perfect introduction. Thank you for the prior conversation we had, and for just talking like this. And I'm sure there'll be more things that we will be doing. I really appreciate it, Rayne. Thanks very much.
Wonderful. Let me know any ways I can support, and I'd love to have a little interview with you sometime.
Any time. I'm around. I'm just sitting up here in the mountains. Okay. Thanks so much, Rayne Grant, everybody.